We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Intuitive You. I have with me today, as I'm sure you know, because that's why you're here, Kevin, the healing medium here. And if you don't know, Kevin is an evidential medium, a healer, a psychic, um, animal communicator,
Mhm.
and all around great guy. So
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh, it's a pinch me moment. I was just saying to you, and this is the first time that we've like connected. But
Yeah.
I feel like I know you. Watching
Oh,
you for the better part of the last year. Of course, on your channel, and then your collabs that you do with Debbie and Andrea, and it's just so wonderful to actually, connect in this way. So it's an honor to be on your channel, but it's even more special for me to just connect with you as well. And of course, all of these people that are here, I think they're actually here for you.
no, they're not. They're here for you. Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I really do. And I'm really excited to connect with you. And um, I have a lot of questions for you though, because I'm so interested in what you do and how you do it. And
Mhm.
I'm very obsessed with process. So
Yeah.
I'm really interested in how things come through for people and what it feels like and that kind of thing. But I kind of want to start at the beginning with you. So, what do you work in mostly? Did you start out like, oh, I do mostly animal communicating, but now I do mostly medium? Is there something you do mostly now that you found?
Um, it's kind of changed, and it kind of comes in different kind of ebbs and flow, if you will, of that. And I would say right now it's more it's perfect actually because I just added an option to my offerings that it was a combination of the mediumship and the psychic. So people are interested, yes, in the communication with their loved ones, but also have that inquiry or seeking for information about their life. So I would say it's a bit of a split. Before, I would say the last 2 years, 3 years, it was a lot more of the mediumship. It was about 80-20, where I was doing mediumship, and in that, often it was the animals that were coming through. And it's so interesting, as you probably know this, the emotion that comes up when we bring through the animals
Oh
can
my
look very
gosh.
different than the loved ones. And not to compare, but it's like, oh my gosh, talk about getting the Kleenex. So yeah, to answer
Right.
your question, I would say it's a bit of a split right now, with the mediumship and the psychic kind of going hand in hand. So people want that combo. Hmm.
Well, and then how did you begin? How did you start?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things now. It's like, I feel like I keep doing each year this life review. And right now, it feels different than it ever has in the clarity of what I'm doing, who I am, how I um, kind of move, and the stand that I take in the
Mhm.
world. And then that might sound a little bit dramatic, but it's truly where I'm at. In looking back, I realize now, with the clarity and the understanding of all of the things, all of the experiences from my earliest childhood memory and then all the way up until now, it continues to kind of mold me in the way I, do this work, the way that I'm in service. That intention, that kind of deep knowing, that recognition has always been there. I haven't always been in the demonstration of it. So, necessarily doing the work professionally. Um, but what I know now is that spirit wants us to do it together. They want us to
Mhm.
have this human experience, this, spiritual experience at the
Mhm.
same time in that weave, instead of it being, and I think that's the reflection. I used to do them so separately. And so the more I incorporate, you know, all the moments of this beautiful connection that we have with spirit in this human experience, I feel like
Mhm.
that to me is just gives me all the chills.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does. I agree with you. Once you kind of know your um, your path, it
Mm.
opens up in a different way. For myself, when I started, I wasn't quite sure why I was doing this. I just
Right.
kind of popped on, which was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. I don't know what I'm doing. But then it kind of moved into um, feeling like I was going to help to demystify this process a little bit for people so they could learn it, you know. And but until I knew that, I was kind of just like drifting and just like going along with whatever. Once I found that, it's like, okay, now things like really opened up because it's like you found that slot where you're kind of like, okay, I can go on this road. And so I understand that.
Mm.
Did you have abilities as a kid, or did you when did you first notice your
Yeah.
abilities?
I mean, exactly that. When I was a kid, I didn't know it as that, how I would word it and language it now, but
Right,
there was just that awareness. I was aware of my spirit guides, not knowing that they were my spirit guides. I was aware of loved ones. I was in these conversations. I was, having visitations. I had these imaginary friends. I had all these layers of knowing things before they would happen. And in it, my experience as a child, when I shared some of those things with the adults, they didn't know how to understand it. They didn't fully know how to say, like, oh, this is what it was, or this is what it wasn't.
right.
A lot of times it was, oh, that's your imagination. Or, it was not really um, spoken about much further than that. And so in it, it's like, I look back and I was like, "Oh my gosh," and this is a beautiful thing. I sit in meditation most days, and in it, I still have the rememberings of when I was a child, when I was a young man, all through my teens and adolescence. It's like I get reminded of these experiences that I had that were, the deepest display of being in, connection with spirit. So, um I think that's the beauty of it. We're always on this journey, and where are at in this, like, very moment, if you will, if time was a real thing, um, it's just so perfect, and we're not separate from it. It's like I think back to my childhood, and I don't know if you could relate to this, but I'm like, "Was that a dream? Was that actually me? Was that my life?" And yet it seems very familiar. So I
Right.
kinda think of that like spirit where it's like, sometimes I will go like, "Oh my gosh, like, did I miss that? Is that really actually happening? Is this" I don't know if that's making sense, but it's
It does, because when you're a kid, you interpret things one way, and then when you go through these experiences and you're kind of fully entrenched in your abilities, and then you look back with a completely different lens, and you're like, oh, that was not an imaginary friend at all. That was something else, or that or when I had this experience or that experience, when I just knew that, this or that was going to happen at school. It's like you have a completely different lens that you can look through.
it's
And
so
so no, I totally get it. I totally get it.
It's if
Um,
I can add one thing to that, it's because spirit has reminded me, because I'm one of those, I'm patient, but then there's moments when I can't read for myself, or I don't actually have the clear picture, if you will. And so I'm reminded of that when I look in the reflection. They remind me, as I'm looking forward into the future, to be kind of in this moment, and the energy of that in relation to my reflection, it actually is really exciting that I don't know all the stuff in the future, if that makes sense. So it's like it's a good reminder that sometimes when we don't know what lies ahead, that it's really exciting, because I remind myself when I get to look in reflection, how perfect, and if I had known it all, my gosh,
right.
like, right, the surprises, the excitement, it's yeah. Anyways. I
Because
think
we're here to have that human experience too,
mm,
right? We're not just here to be, if we were just meant to live in spirit, we'd be there. We would not be here. So we're clearly meant to have an experience here that is all all its own. So yeah, totally understand that. And so what kind of tools do you use? Do you use just yourself as the tool? Do you use cards? Do you use anything else?
Yeah. I'd say one of the biggest tools is just sitting in, I say sitting in the power, sitting in a like meditative state to, to back up my intuition, things about myself. I will get that information through sitting.
Mhm.
Um, in my readings, I use cards some of the time. I use
Mhm.
oracle cards. I think they're just beautiful, and I love the energy of them and the art. And I don't read them per the book. I don't use.
Right.
I'll usually glance at the book to when I'm opening them, but I've learned that, and this is just my experience. I learned, again, talk about the reflection, that I thought things had to be a certain way. Like my office had to look a certain way. I had to do this. I had to have my timing. I had to have my website. I had to have all of the, for me, distraction, if you will, that kept
Mhm.
me out of actually just stepping into it. And so I've learned to kind of put a lot of that to the side. It's not to say that I don't use some of those tools. I use the
Mhm.
pendulum once in a while. The oracle cards, I love it for YouTube because it gives people that visual. Um,
Right.
but I always just say spirit's our greatest teacher in that, and when we're in that connection, which we all are, um, I've learned to I've learned to let go of making a fool of myself. I've learned to of, being wrong. My trust is just so deep that I go with that. So,
Right. And how did you start your channel? Or what
oh,
made you start your channel?
some people might have heard this. I was
Oh.
notorious for inviting myself on people's channels because for the better part of, I would say it's almost been a year and a half. I was on other people's channel. So back when the Nasty Women had a channel, and then Lisa, Spirit Intuitive Tarot, and
Mhm.
then Debbie, I was on her channel. I just invited myself, and they gracefully said yes. And so for the better part of a year, I just did that. I was sharing with you, I still work behind the chair. I'm a hairdresser a couple of days a week.
Mhm.
And so, with all of the private readings, I just didn't have, I didn't want to make the time. And I saw the commitment and the work that went behind it. So, for
Mhm.
the better part of a year, it was just nice to be a guest on people's channel. And then at the end of May, just this year, so 4 months or whatever that is, I can't even keep track of time, but something ended and it allowed me this space and time. And with that, it was like instantly I knew it was time to start a channel. And so, I mean, the community was, maybe somewhat familiar with me, and I was
Right.
familiar with um, so many of you and the community. It was just a wonderful welcome. So yeah, that's how.
And was it scary for you? Because it was really scary for me.
I'm a I'm a wallflower. I'm not like um in my other profession, which is hair, I've done all of the things that most hairdressers would put on their list of to-dos. And it's so funny that a lot of my clients that I had taken care of their hair for many, many years, they didn't even know that part about me. And it
Right.
was because naturally, I'm not one to be the center of attention or seen in that way. So it actually took a lot. And so in my truth, yeah, there was that fear of really stepping into it and being seen because I knew that not everybody was going to like me, and that's a that's a sometimes a tough
Right.
realization, but it's like, it might have been my personality, it might have been whatever it is, and that's okay. And where we place our focus in a community that, 99.9% of people are so loving and, nurturing and kind, it's like that's where I place my attention and my energy. So yeah, it feels perfect. So I still get nervous. I still get nervous
Yeah.
about all of it, like doing haircuts for clients, doing readings for clients, doing YouTube. I get the butterflies, and I think that that's my indication that I'm being called to it. It's excitement. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of looks or
Yeah.
feels scary, but it's often just the excitement. So
It's that, and yeah, that feeling of enthusiasm when you have for something, it's right, because you're kind of stepping into it and it's exciting, it's fun. Um, so and I wrote down all these questions because as I are you an
Oh
empath?
heavens,
Okay. I can
yeah.
feel it because I usually a lot of times I don't know if you have this, but empaths can feel other empaths. I can feel like you're an empath. So I just was wanting to know that. So uh and that's even scarier, putting yourself out there in a more public way where you can be put down or ridiculed or judged, or for an empath it's for people it's hard, but for an empath it's really hard because you feel everything,
Yes.
yeah.
One of the greatest tools that, and I love sharing this, I love that you asked that question. Because I mean, I would say the majority of people here are probably, in the sensitive to the empath on that scale in some capacity. And the sensitive is the new strong. It was a book released a few years ago by Anita Morjani, and it's this recognition and understanding and tools. And it's great for everybody. And I find the adults are sharing it with their kids and identifying
Mhm.
the levels of the sensitivity, because, and I mean, I share this because it's a part of my life still. In the salon, I had to leave, and I literally work in a private studio by myself. And I
Oh.
thought, I know it's interesting, and it's perfect because the more I kind of stepped into this, the more sensitive I became. And at first I was like, "Am I doing this wrong?" And it's like, no, it's actually perfect. Um, oh, did I disappear?
No, you're here.
I lost you on my screen.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
There you are.
Now you see me, now you don't. So just being in that sensitivity, I became more sensitive to the sound and the feeling and the crowds and the people and all of that. And before I used to thrive, on the energy of a Saturday in a salon with all the people and all the
Mm.
conversation, all of that. And now it's just the older I get, the more sensitive I'm discovering I am. So yeah.
Right. And that's so interesting that you say that they're sharing it with kids, because I often think it would have been really nice to know as a kid that I was an empath. My life would
Yes.
have been completely different as a kid or in junior high or high school if I'd have known. Um, because yeah, it really makes a lot of things make a lot of sense once you know that's what you are.
Yeah.
Because you just process things differently. And I don't know about you, but as a kid, I was told all the time, "You are too sensitive. Why are you so sensitive? Stop being so sensitive." It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
And then, yeah, it makes me think about, like, I heard that too, and as a male, um, I felt that even more, and not comparatively
Yeah,
saying that it was more
yeah,
or less, but just like, because of the social kind of, constructs around
right.
sensitivity and being in that, like, self-expression. That's the thing I'm such an advocate for, people's self-expression, and
Mm.
however that looks. It's like, and this is what I'm being prompted to share. It's like watching oh gosh, RuPaul's Drag Race, and just seeing that self-expression. It's like, I'm not one to dress up, but the art of it and seeing people in their element in that
Right.
self-expression, I mean, it makes me so happy. I
Right.
love
And in a public way, right?
that.
Because those kinds of things were kind of off to the side, or back in they weren't publicly out. And I think it's so important to have that, for people to know that these are just people, like you said, just expressing themselves and expressing themselves in different ways. And we gotta people have to get used to that. Too bad. Get used to
Totally,
it.
totally.
Um, so what is your process like, Kevin? What
Mm,
does it feel like to get a message? Do you get them clairaudiently? Do you feel them? How do things come in for you?
yeah, just as soon as I get comfortable with one of the clairs, they'll switch it up for me, and I would say typically, I would say the clairaudience and the clairvoyance and the clairsentience, I would say, are the top 3 for me,
Right.
that they'll alternate, and I used to pay a lot more attention to it, but it's like now it's just so routine of being in that immediate, and it's quick. And my process is like, um, just being quick with my guides. And sometimes I'm not even aware is like, is that a guide or is that a loved one? And where that information is
Yeah.
coming until someone actually like will question and say like, what was that process? And then I actually have to go back and go, okay, well, wait a minute, this is what it was. So I think it's because it's so, I guess the muscle memory around it, the so many hundreds of, you know, readings that I've done, I don't really spend a whole lot of time dissecting it. But when I
Right.
do, it's like they work through all of the clairs with me. And I love it when they'll do the taste and the smell, which are,
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh my gosh, that gets me so excited. And I'm like, more, please. Because I
Right. And
think
do
we're
you,
in the driver's seat of that, you know?
right, right. Yeah,
We
for sure. And do you get chills or anything that like
Mhm.
confirmations, that kind of thing
Yeah.
physically?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the chills, the awareness of the temperature changes. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm roasting, and then sometimes it's like a summer day and you're freezing. So those
Yeah.
changes in temperature, yeah, the full body chills, and it's
Hmm.
interesting. I'll know when the sitter, my client, has them as well. Spirit will say they're also having the chills, and I'll say it, and
Oh, right.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of my that's just like my signal of like that's right, or you're saying that right, because it's always when I'm like, is that right? And then I'll get chills. I'm like, okay, that's right, that's correct. But that's always like a uh I think they know it makes me relieved. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I am saying that right, I'm on the right track, or so I always love that. Yeah. And smell again. I don't get smells very often
Mm,
or taste very often, but you're right. When you do, it's really, really neat.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's amazing. And so this is just kind of something I just wonder if do you have any experiences or just ones that really blew you away or experiences where you thought this is really real?
Mm,
Because sometimes, because you can go along for a long time and just be like, oh, I'm just doing my thing, and but then you have those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, this is
yeah.
crazy. So, do you have
Yeah.
an experience like that you could share?
Yeah, I'm going back to the one I was 14, and literally I saw my grandma standing at the end of my bed, and I knew that she had been not well, and my parents had been out of, town visiting her, and they had come back and they were feeling like, oh, she was kinda getting better. She had cancer. And, just in the conversation, I was 14. I was aware of what was going on. Um, and I woke up and she was standing at the end of my bed. And I'm the kind of person, like, I have to say this, I'm an evidential medium. And what that alludes to is that I'm really skeptical. I'm
Mm,
really skeptical in the sense of I need to establish a certain amount of evidence that
mhm.
is validating to know kind of before I go into the depths of the messaging, if you will. And so for me, I am one of those people that really need to experience it. And I ask
Mhm.
Spirit this all the time, like, show me in ways that it's like um, that profound. So it's like that one in particular, because it was my, if I'm remembering, I remember that being the fullness in, the apparition of spirit, and so in that, she then told me how, the next 12 hours were gonna go into detail, and
Oh
so
my
before
gosh.
yeah, so but here's the thing about it, there was no fear. And I asked her questions. It was interesting because what spirit always wants to remind us is that we need to be in participation. It's like, sitting there and waiting and asking them to come closer and like to give us this information. We can
Right.
step closer. We can be in the conversation. We can get, curious and nosy and be in that participation. And so back to that experience, I had a conversation with my mom and dad, and I knew all of what had unfolded before they had shared it. And they were just like, they just didn't know, they didn't have any explanation. They were just like, they didn't tell me that I was, wrong or that I had made it up because it was 100% accurate. So
Oh,
those are
wow.
the big ones. When I see spirit in partial or full um, manifestation, it's like, to me, it blows my socks off.
And that's very interesting. Do you see with your eyes all
Mm,
the time, a lot, or is it mostly your mind's eye and then sometimes your, because that's really unusual to see it
yeah,
with your like eyes.
yeah. I would say, if I put a number on it, I'm hearing 15, like in the like part scale or in the fullness. Um,
Right,
and then the majority of the time it is in my mind's eye. Um,
right.
so in their fullness, another time I was in Montreal and I woke up and I was awake. And as I'm kind of waking up, I started to talk out loud and I said, I'm awake. And then I was like hearing myself and I'm like, what am I doing? And I had propped myself in the bed. It was for a big photo shoot in Montreal. And within those like words, and I could hear myself, I knew I was fully awake. A man appeared at the end of the bed. And I wanted to go back. And I think that's why they're getting me to tell this one. There was such
Hmm.
a sense of peace around it. There was no
Hmm.
fear. There was such a calmness around it in that communication. So for me, I think those are, I mean, I could be here all day.
I was say those are great. Yeah,
This is, I'm sure you have as well. It's like, because every single reading, Kim, it's like they blow my mind.
yeah,
The things that we get to be a part of in the celebration and the recognition of the essence of our loved ones that are still here, if you will, that are still walking this life with us in a different capacity, but still here. Um, it just blows me away.
yeah. It does me too. It blows me away how they can get you to say certain things. Where
Yes.
you're like, why am I seeing this? And then they're like, oh my gosh, it's like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
just the way they can get you to just spit it out. It's incredible. And do you say guides or do you say angel? How do you refer to your spirit team?
I usually say team. I sometimes will say guides or angels when they're that
Yeah.
predominant, if you will. But I usually say team. I think I sometimes
Okay.
say
That's
guides,
fine.
and I think I change it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't matter to them, right? It really doesn't. I think people get very hung up on names or labels and stuff. That's an earthly thing. It doesn't apply. So, but I
Yeah,
just wondered, just for my own curiosity.
I love it.
Um, so Kevin, because you said like you work in the public with the general public, and then you also do readings. How do you keep yourself clear? How do you keep yourself in the zone you need to be in when you read?
So funny because I heard a message before we started, and this has been really important to me lately, which is the grounding. And that's the answer to your
Oh,
question.
interesting.
I've
Okay.
been having to spend more time grounding lately. Things feel different. And so it was interesting between my readings today, this week, I needed to go outside in between. And some of the things that occurred, they were mind blowing. I've seen an owl, two different owls, 2 days in a row, um, which is just, I mean, a blessing for me. But they wanted me to go
Wow.
outside, and it was interesting. The grass is really dry here. We haven't had a lot of rain out on the West Coast in lots of the country. I live in Canada, and I needed to go outside and be bare feet, and it was like, even though the grass was really dry and kind of prickly, it grounded me even that much more. So I feel like that's really important. And like I was saying earlier, I feel like now in the salon, and then I actually do more days and time doing readings, um, but they don't seem as separate anymore. The conversations that I'm
Mm-hmm.
having with my clients in the salon are conversations like this: the curiosity and the inquiry into, once you share with people that you're into, different sorts of things, and you kind of test out the water or how they're gonna like respond to you or not. The conversations just seem to be flowing in that. So I'm recognizing less of a separation between them, and perhaps that's because I'm doing more of this. But yeah, the
And
grounding.
do you find people do you feel like just like people are kind of, spirit will send you people for
Oh,
your readings, do you feel like they send them in the chair as well at your salon as well?
always. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never a mistake in who we come into connection with. And when
Right.
that's like face to face or directly, I always look at that for, and I remind myself this because sometimes it's like, okay, that was difficult. But refrain from that, it's like there's still something there. So the mirroring sometimes of what the challenge or the upset was, or the mirroring of what the joy and the beauty and the celebrating part is, I feel like it's
Mhm.
always divine. And so I sometimes have to remind myself that, especially when things are a bit challenging, but for sure. Yeah.
And that reminds me something too that happens at least for me as a reader. I'll have themes like for a week or two. I'll have people that everybody lost a mother or everybody is you going through a job thing or something. Do you have that as well, or it's just like these? Yeah,
Always. It's
yeah,
wild. And
it's really weird.
I used to actually keep really detailed journals of it, and I'd have to go and find them. They're
Oh
probably in
wow.
storage, of all of my sessions. And then because the more and more I got to do them, it was just a matter of time. I couldn't. But when in the
Right.
reflection, even in those beginning years, there were definitely themes. And I think what part of the overlay in that is that there's aspects of us being able to emotionally understand on some level with the people that are coming to us. And it doesn't mean you fully understand what their experience is, but in the emotional part of it, there's that familiarity. And in that, I think that's why spirit sometimes lines us up where, if I fully just can't relate on any level whatsoever, my experience has been, I don't
Mhm.
really encounter a lot of that. And so I think just in the energetic and then our teams and, their guides, our guides, on and on it goes. It's so divinely orchestrated, even
Yeah,
down to the time when we actually make the connection. I mean,
right.
that blows me away time and time again.
And you're right. Timing, it's so interesting because I'll have over and over again. I'm sure you hear the same thing. I made this appointment 3 months ago and I had no idea how much I would need it right now because
That's
they know this, you're going to need it here. You think you need it here, but you're going to need it here. So, yeah. So this is just a curiosity for me because I've had this happen a few times. Um, and I think there's reasons for it, but I wonder, oh, thank you, Linda. I wonder if you've ever had your abilities go quiet
mm,
or being or not and not really feeling cut off, but just kind of like it was a more of a I guess a struggle or just a little bit more difficult than it normally is, and what you make of that. If you've had that happen, and if you have, what do you make of it?
yeah. Um, I think it's spirit taking care of us,
Yeah.
right off the bat. I think it is. I think there's times where that feeling of wanting to, I can relate that in both professions of thinking and feeling that I had to do everybody's hair and that I always had to say yes. And it was the
Mhm.
same in the readings where it was like, I thought I had to, I told myself I had to read or be available for everybody. But what I learned from that is when they kind of gave me the little bit of a timeout, if you will, um,
Mhm.
how taken care of I was in that, and they remind us of that because I know this about you too, just in even watching you and what you've shared. It's the we're never excluded in being taken care of. So even in the acknowledgement now of these readings that I have with these beautiful people, sharing with them little parts that are there for me. And people love
Right.
that. That's a part of the gift, in my opinion, where it's like, none of us are excluded in that. So I think
Right.
to answer your question, I appreciate those times where it's like, because sometimes I'll just keep going. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, okay, exhaustion is around the corner, and then you're not going to be good for anybody, including yourself. I feel like that's them taking care of us. And yeah, I've had that.
I think you're right. And I think it's also to, um, I would say a test, but
Mm,
it's, it, it's a challenge when that happens, not to give into fear,
yes.
because you're like, am I going to get this back, or what is going on? But it's very normal. I've taught everybody I've talked to, it's happened at least, for a little while or here and there. And I do think it's partly, to be like, how are you going to handle this?
Yeah.
You don't it's not so accessible right now. What are you going to do? Are you going to step into faith and trust, or are you going to step into fear,
Yeah. And that's it. It brings us back into the body, back into that root chakra where it's like, really being grounded in that place of it's beyond the belief of it. It's beyond,
Mhm.
it's that deep knowing where that's unwavering. And that's where our trust is. And when we're in that, I think sometimes we need to have those reminders. And I definitely, I'm a part of that. It's happened to me. So I think like, yeah, makes me think a lot, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
And there is that fear of like, whoa, what's happening? And then you just kind of have to relax and be like, okay, it's okay. Everything's okay. Everything's all right.
I mean, here's the thing about it. In full transparency, I will sometimes say, why isn't the information that I'm getting the same for everybody? Because sometimes it's like it's the names, it's the dates, it's like addresses, it's like
Mm,
street numbers, it's like the intimate details that only they would know. And then sometimes it's like it's, I mean, still information, but it doesn't seem as me being the medium quite as profound. And yet I
right.
learned to kind of step away from parts of it where it's like what it means to me or what it doesn't, because it can be the most little subtle piece of information that is the most life changing for the sitter. So it
Right.
makes me, it goes back to the trust, like you said, it
Yeah,
is.
for
Mhm.
sure. Well, I thank you for answering all of my questions, and I'm reading the chat. Everybody is they're always saying profound things and having their, I know that we have a lot of gifted people in the chat that have their own amazing experiences, and I'm
Yeah,
glad everybody's here today because the middle of a Saturday sometimes depends on what you do and how what you need your downtime, but it's really nice to do this on a Saturday. But um,
wonderful.
I thought we could read a little bit
Love it.
together for people. And I said, if you have personal questions, that's fine. I do that in the club that I have because it's a smaller group, and I feel okay doing it by myself. But I don't attempt anything like that by myself on my channel because it's a lot of energy. And when everybody they want their question, it really, the only way I could explain it the first time I did, I think I was on Debbie's channel.
Mm,
It felt like jumping into the like whitewater rapids.
right.
That's what the energy felt like. It was just like it was streaming, and I couldn't catch up, and I didn't know who I was reading for. It was just like, what is happening? But you get better at it. But it is one of those things where it's like, wow, there's a lot of energy here, and
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I love and here's the thing, and I love about this community, one of the things I love about them is that the space that they hold for other people when it's their turn, if you will, to have their question answered, the space that
Yeah.
they hold for them, I can feel it. And in that, you can read in the comments and the encouragement and the validation and the support. That makes me feel like I just love that. And Spirit loves that so much. And the layer of so often we're actually being spoken to, you know, in that piggyback where it's like, you know, 5, 6, you know, 10, more than one person who's asking the question. Other people, it's meant for them as well. So I love that part of it. And this community I find does that so brilliantly. So yeah.
That's so true. And you're right, that piggyback, I always tell people,
Mm,
listen to the questions because they could be talking to you. That happens all the time.
yeah.
Um, because they know, they know what people need to hear and how they need to hear it. And so yeah, so let me go to I saw the one of the first questions that came in. Where is it? Oh gosh. Here we go. And Denise, I'll go back to you. But Julie Short says, "Do you see me getting a new job soon?"
Julie Short. I'm gonna use I got this cool deck from Lisa Foster. That's the Time Oracle deck. And it's like there's a one year.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. And then there's these time cards. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I'm
time is such a difficult thing.
no, I'm being inundated with threes right now. So I just read in the thing. MP said happy 33rd birthday. I looked into the chat. There was 333 people, and I don't know, just minutes before, Spirit said to write down 333. So there's something there in relation to Julie. So
So this is weird because look what I wrote down before we got on. I wrote down all twos.
oh my
So, because I was going to ask you, does two mean anything to you? Because
number. Oh my gosh.
it's what?
2 is my number. 22 is my number.
Okay. So there you go. But how weird that you would be writing threes and I'd be writing twos. So now I know why I got my twos, but that's very interesting. So maybe three means something to Julie. How funny.
Interesting.
That's crazy. Um, so
Interesting.
Julie Short. You know what? I'm getting and I'm getting Julie, that something about manifesting. And I don't usually get things about manifesting, but I kind of feel like for for this to happen, you need to know what you want. It's kind of like I don't know if you need to hone in on the like exactly what you want, or it's like have a clearer picture,
Mm.
something like that. Something like that. I don't know. What do you get, Kevin?
Um, it's interesting, Julie, that I got, and I'm just reading to the comments of all the people with the numbers. I mean, there's some great. I get
Like what?
you always get distracted, but it's like people are resonating with those numbers. So there is a prime.
Oh, interesting.
Well, on the heels of us talking about how they all piggyback, and that's just
Yeah.
it. So I love that when we, you know, say things out loud, Spirit will then often validate that by, you know, this is such a perfect demonstration of that. Julie,
Right.
I feel this sense of a little bit of waiting. I got the wait card, and then for a little clarity, I pulled the taking risk card. My attention is drawn to you just in that kind of like in that flight and in the view of kind of observing a little bit. So okay, what they're saying about that is just really, if you can, just allow yourself a little bit of a pause. It just feels like a bit of a recoup from maybe what you've left, or yeah, it feels like from what you've left job wise. And so in that, I think it was the 333. So it feels like you're really employable. It's like 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. It feels like in that container, there are some potentials for you, and you get to be in decision. So back to the manifesting part, you're the one creating this. So I think that there are jobs there. Yes. Will you get employment? Yes. It feels like they're wanting you to be in that, really in the decision of it.
Mm.
Yeah. So
I think that's such a good point. Oh, so thank you, Dr. K. And
so
we'll get to your question. And um, I think that's such a good point because I think sometimes um for me for readings I usually have people spread them out, not have again, 6 months or a couple of years or something, because I think you're right. I think spirit really, really wants us to be the stewards of our lives and not just leave everything, well, it'll just be taken care of. We're here to kind of use our free will and
Mm,
use our ability to create. And yeah, so I think that's a great point and something to think about as well. So Dr. K says my brother passed away recently, and I'm wondering if he has a message for me. Thanks for all you two do. You are welcome.
so sorry for your loss.
So sorry.
Mm, do you want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I heard the D name. So there was something about the D name I'm hearing in relation to D. I don't see the question, but I think it was brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Something about the D name. I was aware of my labored breathing. So something about my breathing. Significance about the month of October. And then I saw the number 11. So maybe
Mm.
January 1st or November, but also number 11. Um, I see lots of birds around you. I see lots of birds around you, and kind of moving into the message. It's this encouragement for you to embrace. So it feels like there's an aspect of resistance around. I don't know what he's showing me. It's more of the feeling of you just embracing, whether it be opportunity, um, joy, kind of like just into that type of energy. Um, like your participation in that. It's like you, once again, it's like we're so, it's such a wonderful thing that we're able to have free will and to be, in sometimes it doesn't look like it, but to really be in participation of what we're creating. So in that, it's an encouragement for you to be in the embrace of that is what he's making me feel. So that's what's coming through.
So, and I almost said Daniel or Dan, but I got a D name as well. So I don't know, but and I don't usually get names, so that's very interesting. But I'll definitely with you there. But there's something about books as well. I keep getting books, and so I don't know if this is reading or writing books or a book, but um, I keep getting books. Um, I mean, right when you have these things, you don't have any context. So I'm just like, you're gonna have to figure out the context, Dr. K.
Yeah.
But I'm getting books and books, and so I don't know if this is something. And there's something about childhood as well. So I don't know if there's something with your childhood with books, or if this has to do with writing books or reading books. I don't know, but that's what I'm picking up. I feel like he's going back to childhood for some reason.
Name was
So,
by Drew. He was the
was that
he went by Drew. That was his
Drew? Okay, perfect. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
Um, and Cleescape, thank you so much, and you're welcome for these teachable moments. Thank you, Judy Christensen, so much. You guys are awesome.
So Dr. That the validation, just the feedback is really important. So just
Yeah.
feeling into the energy of that. He was saying that he sends him the birds as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Mm, interesting.
Interesting. Okay, went by Drew. Okay, you're right. And he says so many birds.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And it's so, and because you say you're a medium and a healer, but medium work is so healing, isn't it, for
Oh,
people?
yes.
It can be completely life changing and pull them out of when they a lot of times when you get stuck in grief. I think it's one of those things that can just pull you right out.
Yeah.
So that is healing work, I think. So um, I love the generalness of this. Is there a message for me?
I love
This is
it.
Mario. Mario
Mhm.
Elzondo. Is
Yeah.
there a message for me?
Oh, that's curious. They're showing me, Mario, you standing at a bus stop, and um, it's like you're waiting. So there's this aspect of patience in it for you because you're waiting, and it's like it's taking everything for you to be in the patience of like, because you keep seeing these buses, and you're like, okay, that's not the right number bus. If I get on that bus, I'm not going to be going the right way. So there's this element of patience for you right now. So spirit's acknowledging your patience. So if you would understand that as however you would understand that, that's what they're I love that. I'm like, what, did he miss the bus? No, you didn't miss the bus. It's actually, it's perfect. Oh, that's so interesting. Um, Such a blessing. On the heels of the birds, there you go, another bird, which is a
Yeah.
blessing bird.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
beautiful bird.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I feel like, Maria, just so you know, I feel like you get messages and you need to heed them. I feel like I hear the word heed them, so or the words heed them. So you need to realize that you get them, and then you need to listen to them. Um, Sometimes I don't know how they're. I almost feel like they might be coming in dreams. There's something dreamlike about this. So either during your day, like daydreaming, or night dreams, but there's something that feels um, floaty, dreamlike to me. So, but you get messages, so you need to trust them and listen to them. Um, Especially right now, there's something going on right now. I feel like with you, Mario. So you
Mm.
need to heed them right now. But anyway,
Kim, can I go back? Because Spirit said to
yeah,
look back, and I did. And Dr. K, just the one little thing.
yeah.
I don't know if this relates to the question that you just asked about which poem I think it was. If by chance number 11, there was something significant about the number 11, because it was not only, it was like it was taking me to the month, but then if I remember, I said like there's something about the number 11. So page
Oh,
11, number 11, see what that feels like for you around the selection of the poem is what I'm feeling. So.
oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, great. I wanted to go back to Denise here because I have read for Denise before, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
Mhm.
Um, so I can, and Denise says, I communicate with a deceased friend and a few family members. Your specifics would really help. Who most wants to or needs to say something to me? What's the message or feeling? Thank you.
I heard mom, motherly energy. Does feel um, motherly. Um, Motherly energy. Hmm. Connected to the month of May. I'm seeing the number 5, so the change, but also the month of May being significant.
Mhm.
And sorry, the M female name connected to that energy. Um, this feels like a memory, but in this energy of this female, I feel this memory. It's like I close my eyes and I'm sitting around the campfire. So it's like, I don't know if you went camping, sat around the campfire, but it feels like memory of that. And so it's, in that it's just like it's all the excitement, it's all the innocence, and like getting to stay up late, and the special treats. It's like just in that being so present, is the feeling and the memory around that, and that's the message. So it's back to, and I know we've said this already, that's the theme that Kim was talking about. It's being in the present moment and not having to spend so much of our time in the past, in the future, just really being present. So metaphorically or figuratively, being around that campfire feels like that. So um, I'll leave you
And
with
she said the name Margaret. She said, is the name Margaret? Because I guess there's a Margaret.
Oh, could be, yeah. Sometimes they
You
don't
got the M name.
yeah,
Yeah.
they don't I sometimes butcher it. So what I usually get really good for is the first initial, and I just keep it quite simple. But if you would understand the rest of the information, perhaps connected to that, then yes. So, mhm.
All right. Awesome. Okay, Ziggy B. My daughter moved out of state, and my granddaughter and I are like two peas in a pod. Oh, will they ever move back? That's so hard.
Such a special bond.
Hmm.
Aw.
So I'm getting to that, Ziggy B. This is a chance to um, find. This is an opportunity, I guess, to find other ways to connect. So whether it's through letters or I feel like this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to connect in different ways.
Mm,
But I actually do feel like there's a reunion at some point. So I don't know if you move there or they move here, but I feel like there is a reuniting that is happening. So um but look, I feel like spirits like look at it as an opportunity and connect in different ways. Um yeah. So that's what I'm getting. I know that some of my most cherished memories with my grandmother were through letters,
oh,
writing letters,
mhm.
um, and when you send something through the mail, when you do write a letter like with your hand and not a text, that carries an energy with it. When you pull that out and you're holding something that they held, that that has an energy to it. So yeah. Anyway,
Interesting. Kim, Denise is saying something to you. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you would understand that reference.
okay. What do you got, Denise?
Ziggy B, I feel like this actually, and this is just the energy of what I'm picking up on right now. I got within 3 years, so maybe it's not the timeline according to your preference. And I got the do it card. And as I kind of um, felt into that, I feel that the likelihood right now is that you would be the one to make the move, versus them. I feel like they're going to get settled. And in that, the kind of desire and ability for you to move, feels like what will present. And that timeline, it can be, once again, we go back to that free will. You could expedite that timeline, just by really, setting your attention to it. But I do feel that reunion. So yeah, there is a strong potential of that, is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you're right. It's free will, it's choice, and yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Denise was talking about her friend Michael. That's another M name that she connects with on the other side, and the campfires. She was saying kind of that she thinks that might be something with him. So,
Oh, interesting. Well,
but yeah,
because she mentioned a few people, sometimes they just step in together. And so collectively,
right.
like all these little parts of like several of them. And it's like, in a full reading, you get to distinguish and really feel into the energy like singular, and really narrow into that, for me anyways. So I love it when they do that, where they bring little pieces of several people, and it
Right.
actually kind of answered the way that you had questioned it. So I love that. It's so
Yeah,
perfect.
I know. It's really, really cool. So.
Because they listen way better than I do. I know that. Yeah.
So we're coming up on an hour. Are you okay to do a couple more questions?
Sure, Kim. Yeah, if
Okay.
you're,
All right.
yeah.
Great. Um,
Isn't Kim lovely, everyone?
well, thank you.
No?
And you can come back anytime, Kevin.
Oh my goodness. I'm off her.
He's so wise. Thank you, Kevin. And isn't Kevin wonderful? Aren't we happy to have him here today? I'm so glad we're doing this. Okay.
So good.
So here's a problem one. I like to
Yeah.
get to these ones. I'm so Betty M says, I'm having problems with which family member to move near. I'm
Oh,
76 and need to move closer to family.
interesting. Interesting. I'll tell you what they're showing me. They're showing me this field, and there's all of these trees, and I'm looking in, and I'm like, I see all this white stuff, and I'm like, what is that? And it's the energy of the white buffalo, which is really beautiful. So the energy of the white buffalo, but it's about the snow. It's about the snow on the ground. So I don't know if one of them lives in a place where there actually is snow or more snow, but that's what spirit is drawing my attention to.
That's interesting because I was getting something about the holidays. So that's kind of interesting that it's like that time of year. So maybe it's also telling you uh, to to think of that. There's something about too. I feel like
Mm.
go with that it may be this kind of thing may be just harder around the holidays, and it might be a good idea to go there during the holidays because it will it will make it less difficult until you do decide to move. So I think there's something about that, but I think you're right. I think you're right, Kevin. I think there's something about moving someplace where it's like, to me, it's like they have four seasons. It's not like it's, like in California, we have, sun and rain, but this feels like four, like all four seasons are displayed. Um, so I think you're spot on with that.
It's interesting too. I pulled one more card, and because there is that element of, sorry, I'll show it closer. It's the
Oh,
willing
right.
release. So there's kind of like, it feels like as a mother, kind of having to make the decision, one child over the other.
Right.
There's that element where it's like just allowing yourself to release that part of it, and it's like the attention of the dandelion, and those seeds are so delicate, and it's just really to actually like simplify it. The release is really simple because you can't make a wrong decision in this. Just make your next best decision in it, and it'll be perfect. Mhm.
She's like, both have four seasons. So
Oh,
you
interesting.
just like split your time.
Actually, Google, who gets more snow?
Yeah, who gets source now exactly? Who has the longer winter? Um, okay, let me see. Oh, how sweet. I'm just going to put this up. It's not a question, but it's just sweet. So, Kim, you're the first psychic I saw on YouTube 2 years ago. And so I have found my extended family on wonderful community. You and Kevin are so amazing. Amazing. It's so true. I think especially I don't know if you were on during the pandemic, but I think
Mm,
during the pandemic people really um found these communities so necessary. It really, I think it was such a lifesaver for so many people to have all these communities talking and sharing and keeping each other out of that fear element and supporting one another. But that's really sweet.
yeah.
Sterling Roses, thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's what brings, I mean, myself included in this, is that um, being left with a sense of hope around it, and we can get that in such different ways through community. So that that was a part of, I would say I was in the last well, if it was 3 years, I don't even know how many years that was. But anyways, in
Hmm.
the last kind of third of it, I was aware of that. But yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing that we even lived through that, but we did.
Right.
We
Right.
got through it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what a crazy time. My daughter was well, she's still in the UK, but she was in the UK and we were separated for about 18 months.
Oh,
And, and when, before Trump got out, it was just rampant here. I mean, there was no end in sight. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to hold on and
yeah.
hopefully we will get together soon. But it's a very, yeah, a life altering time for sure.
Mhm.
Um, okay, let me get one more. Let's see, where should we go? Um, okay, I'm going to ask this one because it's kind of a healing one too.
Love it.
Ava asks, health challenges resulting from having cancer. More healing ahead so I can work. Side effects healing. 73 loves to participate in life. Worth seeing an expensive natural path in Bellevue. Um,
Mm, interesting.
okay.
Hmm. That was interesting. My desk just moved by itself.
Oh, what's
Mm,
happening there?
I don't know. I don't think I pushed the button. No.
Expensive.
Of course, for entertainment purposes only, and of course, you're
Yes,
working
yes,
with
of
a
course.
doctor and all of that. I feel like tuning into the naturopathic kind of way, and I feel like already that to me, it's like they're because they were showing me when I was talking about like the the human aspect and then the spiritual aspect and weaving them together. That's what they brought me back to. So that actually does feel good, and sometimes, yeah, the investment um, can look a certain way. Um, and if that feels doable, then I do get a bit of a hit around that in a good way.
Good,
Let's see if I can specific.
good.
Hmm. Yeah. Your outlook. Um, okay, your outlook, just like tuning into your energy, your outlook, and the way that you speak about it. They're bringing attention to that, and they're acknowledging, it's your positivity around it that is also assisting you in the healing. Yes, of course, your doctors and all the things that you do, your relationship with spirit. As well, you in that, down to the words um, that you speak and that you tell yourself up here, those are also contributing. So as you are being mindful of that is also assisting you, they're saying. Hmm.
Yeah, and I just got uh, ringing in my ears. That's usually a sign for me that there are angels around you, Ava. So you have angelic assistance right now. Um, and I feel like it's important for you, and that's probably why Kevin was saying that as well, because it's important for you to know that. I think sometimes what you're dealing with, because that it's been a long road, and I feel like it can be something that can be discouraging sometimes. So it's just important for you to know that you have um, you have a lot of assistance on the other side. So you can you can let down sometimes and let them kind of carry you because I feel like it's like you get like exhausted from all of this stuff. So just know that you've got that extra help. So let them um, rest in their arms a little bit. When you have those moments where it's like, I can't do this anymore or anything, you've got assistance. So just yeah, use it, rest in it. It's kind of, I don't know why they're saying to do that. It's probably a good idea for all of us to do sometimes, but I do get this feeling like when you cannot take it anymore, just rest in their arms. They've got you.
Yeah, I love it. Along that is the stillness card. So that you just being in that rest and your beauty, it's like as I tune into your energy, it's like I'm like 73, no way, because it's like, yes, there is still work. And what's a number, anyways? But in that,
Right.
it's the energy of like, yes, there's more to unfold, and that feels really good. And so, pacing yourself and being able to recognize where you can show up and you can't, feels really good. So when you need to be in that stillness.
And it's beautiful. I love the way people take care of each other in here because I can already see people sending,
Hmm.
um, sending you love and light, Ava. Even just this, idea of opening up and letting people hear what's going on with you, and then let them come in and just, give you a little bit of that light and love that helps so much. Well, thank you, Kevin, so much for being here. I just really appreciate you coming and hanging out and doing some reading and letting us get to know you. And yeah, thanks so much. And tell people where they can find you. I've got your YouTube channel um, in the description, but do you have a website? Where can they find you? Do you do what kind of readings or healings or things do you do?
So the YouTube channel is The Healing Medium,
Mhm.
and my website is the www.thehealingmedium.ca. Reading wise, I'm booked until next year. I've opened up my calendar. I do it in about 2 or 3 month kind of containers now. So I'm open from the middle of January till the end of March. So I've got some availability for one-on-one readings, and I do them all through Zoom. And my website's all up to date, and all the challenges that come with a website for me have been ironed out. So it's just pretty straightforward. You can find me there. And Kim, thank you for having
You're
me.
welcome.
Wonderful.
Anytime.
Mhm. Such a
All right, guys. We'll see you later. Thanks, Kevin. See you next time, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.